The Motivator Show. Inspired Guest for 2025 Review. 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 The Motivator Show. Inspired Guest for 2025 Review. The Motivator Show. Inspired Guest for 2025 Review. Motivator Show. Inspired Guest for 2025 Review. The 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 Motivator Show. Inspired guests for 2025 review. 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 Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's the motivator here. This is where we translate our words into action and where success is ours for the taking. Isn't that fantastic? We've made it. We've made it. We are now approaching 2026. Now, you know what that means, yeah? New opportunities, new horizons, new challenges, yeah? It is your mindset that will determine the outset, okay? It is you, just you. But you're here. So your intention is to adopt a positive mindset, an enlightened mindset, a mindset which says we will work together because in unity is strength. Working with others, working in collaboration with others, in unity is strength. Oh yeah, oh yeah. I am, gotta tell you, truly enthralled by the review we've conducted of this year's podcast. We've sent out more than 80 new videos this year. 80, more than 80. And what is clear from those videos, from each of those transmissions, is that an incredible amount of effort to ensure good quality production, that the information is real, verifiable, validated, and the inspiration can lead to you making good decisions, inspired you to do better for yourself, for your loved ones, for your network, and wider communities. And therefore, the mission of the Motivator Show has therefore been achieved. We'd anticipated, let me tell you, we had anticipated that we'll be able to do a quick review, a quick summary of the transmissions this year, 2025, only to discover that in January 2025, the content was so rich, so dense, so full, so complete that there is no chance of us taking care and summarizing the following 11 months. Because we would not do justification to those wonderful guests who shared their lifetime experiences, their professional experiences, their wisdom, their inspiration with us. We've inspired tens of thousands, indeed millions of you, to do better for yourselves. There's no way we could do this. So, what we have agreed to do, my team and I, is indeed to proceed with the summary for 2025. We'll proceed, but we will transmit them midweek. Mhm. So, there'll be a summary of the previous year's month, mhm, summarized midweek, but it will contain even more information. I say again, more information, greater content for you to continue to make good decisions for yourself, your loved ones, your network, and wider communities. The mission of the Motivator Show is being fulfilled by you and your follow up actions. Hey, actions speak louder than words, yeah? Translate words into action because success is yours, ours for the taking. Yeah, that's why I'm so fired up. I am so fired up. I've got to tell you, January 2025 was really a quite remarkable month. The content in that month shared with you was overwhelming. So, this particular birth show will focus on January 2025. The content shared with you by the Motivator Show. We'll do some commentary over some of the interviews, some of the content shared. Okay. And we will, as I said, midweek provide you with further update on that content because of course time has moved forward. Okay. Most important updates that gives justification for the effort, the time, the sweat, the dedication by the team and I to deliver that content to you. Oh yeah, we feel and we are truly fulfilled. And there's much, much, much more where that came from. 2026 will truly be an outstanding year. Yeah, yeah, yeah. An aspect of the motivator's purpose, of course, is that we are very much a campaigning channel. The issues we will take up and bring to your attention, issues of personal or collective interest, of concern. There are, of course, other issues that we have yet to take up. Don't misunderstand. We're going to do so many so far, you know. But it does, this partnership we have with you is critical. We say, if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, we urge you to do so. That tells the YouTube algorithm, which is only a machine. That's all it is. And all it wants to do is to distribute and notify likely subscribers who are free, that you don't pay. I would emphasize that, who are free. That the content the Motivator Show provides is relevant, inspirational content and will help them to understand particular issues. Yeah, and they can use that information to inspire themselves to action. Because we all know it, because we've all gone through it. Well, you just feel you just can't get anything done. You feel down. This is the pick me up, as it were. The motivator shows the pick me up, as it were. Yeah, the pick me up. Yeah, that there's no drugs here. Huh? This is just information that inspires, that resonates with you, that enables you to feel and understand issues and understand it's you. You are the decision makers. It's your choice, your decision. What happens next? Hey, oh yeah. We're full of it here, I have to tell you. We are full of it. We're full of those positive vibes that you provided. So if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, we urge you to do so. Or do not leave any of our transmission unless you have given us a thumbs up, like that. There you go. There's the machine responding to us. Or, of course, you leave a short comment. That's fine. That will do fine. We're more than happy. Okay? But equally so, if you haven't and if you're not in receipt of our regular notifications of what's to come and other information notices, please why don't you get onto our mailing list? I'll put it on the screen for you. There we go. That's us, the Motivator Show. Yep, you've got it. 501 at gmail.com. There you go. The Motivator Show, 501 at gmail.com. I'll move it around this so you can all see it. Your eyes can latch onto it. The Motivator Show, 501 at gmail.com. Join our mailing list, and there'll be a few, extra bits added on for you, extra Phillips, as it were. Okay, we are going to grow our mailing list this year. Okay? And those of you who want it, I know you're benefiting. Oh yeah, we know you're benefiting. Join our mailing list, and if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, do so. And don't ever leave one of our transmissions without either giving us a thumbs up, preferably, he says, or indeed leaving a comment. That will really greatly help us because you tell the YouTube algorithm the content is worth sharing with others. That's what we want to do. There you go. And thank you for the support you've given to us this year. And indeed, not presuming, of course, that you will continue to give to us in 2026 and share our contents with your family, your friends, and your wider network. We are grateful. We are truly appreciative. we are truly appreciative. Praise Jah. Absolutely, absolutely. Because together we can, and indeed we will make the difference. It's the motivator here. Yep. The motivator means, of course, we motivate you. We are your pick me up, as it were. Yep. That extra fillip, as it were. Uh-huh. Absolutely, absolutely. And in doing so, we can transform our personal lives. In doing so, we can transform our network away from negativity and to cooperative economics, mhm, where there's a high degree of collaboration. And where there's mistrust, you create a framework so that mistrust can be overcome. Mhm. But once you agree a framework, a set of values, a set of do's and don'ts, once you've agreed that, you can work with anyone, any person is possible to work with. Important lesson in life, okay? You are not an island. Mhm. Those of you say, well, I'm independent, doesn't matter. Well, I have to tell you. Gosh, you're just an island over there, you know? Okay. Islands get washed away with the waves. Uh-huh. Yeah. It is where you are a grain of sand among tens of billions of grains of sand. You create mountains, and therefore you build resilience because you're collaborating, cooperating with others. Mm. Because you build a framework, a do's and don'ts, a framework, and what you can do in a particular circumstance because you've agreed this in advance through mutual agreement. In unity is strength. That's what it means. Yeah? That's what we mean when we say it. In unity is strength. Societies are built upon that framework. Mutual respect, mutual understanding. And where there's no mutual respect, mutual understanding, you have chaos, of course. Individualism. In some parts of my own community, there's hyper individualism, where you hear people say, I'm strong and independent. Crazy, huh? Crazy. They're alone. Yeah. I pause. They're alone. Yeah. They are an evolutionary cul-de-sac. Only civilizations survive. Civilizations are people collaborating, set of rules they've agreed upon. That's the only way forward. There you are. Bit of wisdom for you, huh? There you are. There you are. Now we move forward. This is very much a campaigning channel. I say again, we campaign on issues of mutual interest and concern. Okay? And those issues, of course, resonate with not all, but some of our viewers and listeners. Okay? But I'm sure there's an issue that is close to you that we will touch. And if we haven't touched it, send a message to our email address. There we go. Put up on the screen again. Just send a message to us. Tell us, well, why have you not discussed this particular issue, the motivator? And we'll look at it, review it, and if we can, we will. And if we can't, we might ask further questions of yourself as to its merit and rationale for your suggestion. Okay, that's it. That's how it works. Not a problem. Not a problem. Let's go to the first issue of mutual interest. Okay, because as I say, we're going to get to the past contributors as an integral part of what will typically be the interview section. We're going to start that review of 2025 when we will start in January. But an issue of mutual interest. Now, which one should we take up first? Okay, and this was an interesting one. Let me put it on the screen. I'll start off straight away. Many of you will be aware that we've given light to an issue here in the UK, referred to, or Britain, referred to as the Windrush scandal. This is where successive British governments reduced, or in effect, took away the national identities of tens of thousands, forgive me, hundreds of thousands of people. And for them to regain their identity, they're then forcing them to have to pay significant amount of money for actions outside of their control. Some people have found themselves destitute, could not access the public health services here, could not get jobs, could not in fact do all the normal things in life because of the changes in the immigration rules that they were caught up on. But the Windrush scandal talked about a pioneering group of people from the Caribbean and Africa who responded to the call for Britain seeking out workers. People who just work hard in public services and the private sector. Hundreds of thousands came from the Caribbean and Africa. In effect, it was a brain drain. Mhm. But we refer to it being the Windrush scandal. It refers to a particular ship that is associated with particularly visiting the Caribbean. But that's just one ship of many, and of course, many came over on aeroplanes to my own parents. Mhm. But it was the most dastardly act of Parliament that was sanctioned by the monarch, I might add. Sanctioned by the monarch. You may ask why I say sanctioned by the monarch. What I mean by that Britain is a constitutional monarchy. In other words, the monarch has to approve all laws and actually sign it. The term here is royal assent. Yeah. In other words, the monarch has signed it. Whatever has been discussed by Parliament, agreed by Parliament, ultimately has to be approved by the monarch. Often, it's not very often, in fact, that he says uh, laws are not actually refused by the monarch, but typically what happens with people with great power, they don't show it. They influence the processes so they don't have to publicly contradict. Because British people might identify it as being a bit odd if we're in a democracy. I'll say no more on that subject. I'll say no more on that subject. Mhm. But the Windrush pioneers, like my parents and hundreds of thousands, indeed millions, mhm, were people who just worked very hard, honest people, good people, and they were done a dirty by Parliament, yeah, the legislative uh, body here in Britain. And I say again, a successive series governments of all colours. It is hoped this new government will continue the promises, and indeed, largely those promises have been kept, I might add. Okay, we'll come back to Anthony Brown, not in this particular episode, in the future episode. We'll focus on him, who's leading the call for a Windrush Act. But nevertheless, what we want to do, and take the opportunity now, is to encourage those who are affected by the Windrush scandal to seek out legal advice. Come in from the cold. You have no need to suffer in silence. And you will recall we had representatives from the Windrush Legal Advice Clinic. You can see on the screen now. They're based at 58 Bank Street here in the West Midlands in Britain. That postcode WV148PD. Email address, it's info at windrushlegaladviceclinic.com. Telephone number, if you're in the UK, but if you're external to the UK, you remove the zero. So it's 01 902 382 542. There you are. We urge you to seek out professional advice. You're entitled to it, I might add. You are entitled to it. But whilst the Windrush scandal is being addressed, okay, the call for a Windrush Act continues unabated. Mhm. Unabated. So I'm going to put it on the screen, the call for a Windrush Act. There you go. There you go. Anthony Brown, who was himself a victim of the dastardly acts of Parliament, which caused him to lose his nationality for a while. Okay? But there you are. We're calling for a Windrush Act. Action speaks louder than words. The time for action is now. Translate our words into action. Contact WD Legal, and their website address is www.wdlegal.co.uk. Join the campaign to secure the Windrush Act. Together, we will make the difference. Hashtag Windrush Act now. It is worthy. This is a worthy cause, a just cause for us all to rally behind. Even if you are in a secure position, it is good to support those who need your support. And it could be simply signing a petition or writing to your MP, speaking directly to your MP. Okay, that's a member of Parliament. To doing so, it's a small act of recognition that this was a dastardly act of Parliament, series of acts of Parliament resulted in this situation. Well done, Anthony. Keep up the good work. We're getting back in the studio in the not too distant future, but I know he's working diligently on this issue. Well done, well done. You have our unreserved support. And I say again to those of you who are affected by the Windrush scandal, come in from the cold. You are no longer alone. In unity is strength. Yeah, that's what it means. That's what it means, you know. You're no longer cold. You know, we can warm each other, you know, holding each hands. Yeah. Oh yeah. That's it. The future is yours for the making. Translate our words into action. There you are. There you are. That's the first campaign, just mentioned in this particular transmission. Of course, there are other campaigns we've taken up. Another one, of course, addressed an issue which is, I have to tell you, um, one that I was moved by, um, and I slowed down for a moment because I want you to take this in. I could not understand how it's possible for cultures and tradition to involve maiming people, brutalizing people, mutilating people, particularly women. Hmm. Yeah. So the issue of FGM, or female genital mutilation. Did you know that there are more than 250 million women, and the majority are lament African women, for whom this mutilation has happened? Fortunately, the majority of it happened when they were babies. Yeah, when they were babies, mutilating their most private parts. I pause because I cannot contemplate, because I have daughters, and I have to tell you, I don't. In fact, let me be direct. If there was any suggestions by my daughter's husbands or future husbands that in order for them to marry, they would have to be physically mutilated, that marriage would not happen. I'll make it clear that marriage would not happen. But I've spoken to over 100 women for whom this this mutilation has happened to. They said majority, about 75% or so, happen when they're babies. They know that their private parts are different from other women's, okay? But it doesn't apparently affect them because they don't know any better. Mhm. But each one of them has got some complications when it comes to childbirth or intimacy. Mhm. But they accept it as just life. But the remaining 25%, too high percentage, isn't it? It happened when they are conscious and they're aware, and where they can recall the mutilation happening to them. I pause again because I'm almost hesitant even to continue talking about the subject, and that's what's wrong. We must talk about this subject. Mhm. We must talk about this subject. Mhm. I've said often, but we must listen carefully to women, particularly young women's, their hopes, their aspirations, their needs. Yeah, because they hold very important roles in all civilizations. Mhm. But the idea that women in my own immediate family will be subjected to such behavior. I want to speak to the men. Yeah, I want to speak to the men. At one point, I thought it was going to happen, but the men know this is wrong. The men understand that women are suffering. But it would appear that the vast majority I've spoken to, they said yes, they wish to come and discuss this subject in public. When it comes to the point, at the point of which we're about to discuss this subject, they've all declined at the last possible moment. Yeah. But where I'm sitting, because I've got good friends, women for whom they describe themselves publicly as being FGM survivors. Mhm. They describe themselves as being survivors. Courageous human beings who discuss this subject in public and emphasize the need for us to eradicate it. Yeah. Makes sense, doesn't it? Makes sense, doesn't it? But it may not be happening in your family. Yeah. But you'll be surprised the number of women for whom they are simply survivors. They've accepted this, not because they want it, but because, well, it's just the way it is. I say that is not true. That's why the Motivator show exists. Mhm. I needed to speak with a certain passion on this subject because all too often I'm told that I should not discuss it. And it's really down to the communities themselves to decide, make that decision for themselves. I respond that we are our brothers and sisters' keepers. And yes, and where a so called tradition, yeah, causes and maims another human being, we should all take an interest. We all have an opinion because that human being will interact with us. And the quality of that interaction will be affected by that person's lifetime personal experience, of which this could be a part of it. Mhm. And patently and without doubt, common sense dictates so called propaganda that is purification, so called propaganda that it's a it's a ritual toward adulthood is clearly false. Otherwise, that action will be written into our genes and it become an integral part of our genes. It would happen naturally. Mhm. It's like we all change if we enter puberty. Yeah, that's how genes evolving us enable us to evolve. But I've had the pleasure of working with someone who is indeed a survivor. Okay, she lives here, not far from me. Get to know her, a remarkable human being. And she's used her own public office. She was a former mayor of a London borough. Mhm. And she made it one of her missions to publicize this heinous act, female genital mutilation, FGM. Mhm. Okay. I spent a little longer on it because I wanted you all to hear and understand the brutality that's involved. This remarkable human being, let me put the details on the screen now. Here we go. Put it on the screen. There you are. There you go. So let me make it clear. She's a local councillor Naima Ali, and she's the founder of Unshackled Duma. Okay. Now, just to be quite clear, and I know sometimes it's difficult for some people to fully understand why we do this. In fact, let me just make this a bit smaller so you can all see it on the screen properly. There you are. And make the slight adjustment for you. There you are. This command of adjust. There you go. There you go. So, Unshackled Duma is a Southwark, we say London based organization that empowers women and girls, particularly from Black, Asian, and so called here ethnic minority Muslim communities. The organization focuses on promoting empowerment, autonomy, and advocacy, with a strong emphasis on community. Let me just say this again. The organization focuses on in promoting self empowerment, autonomy, and advocacy with a strong emphasis on combating female genital mutilation, or FGM. It raises awareness about FGM's harmful effects, supports survivors, and work towards eradicating the practice. Oh, yeah. We don't discuss this subject, but it's affecting more than 250 million women, majority of which are African women. Mhm. And they could live in the neighborhood or in your neighborhood right now. Okay. I hope this particular subject, now I brought it to your attention, you're now aware of it, and you can join with Naima Ali as part of this campaign to eradicate this practice. Email address is unshackleduma2 at gmail.com. There you are. There you go. Thank you. Thank you. So those are two campaign issues. There are, of course, others, but I want to spend a little longer this time on those two campaign issues because they are hard hitting, direct issues. You understand why we bring these to your attention. There are others we brought to your attention this year, and they will come to your attention shortly. But a regular theme for each of our podcasts is your health and well being. Your health and well being. What is noted, in particularly amongst people of African heritage, and most certainly Southeast Asian heritage, in other words, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, mhm, there are worrying signs of degrading public health. Worrying signs that conditions such as diabetes, hypertension or high blood pressure, obesity, yeah, respiratory, and indeed cancers have got a foothold in the communities and remain persistently high. Much of these conditions, many of these conditions are avoidable if we think about our lifestyle. What we do and what we do is the actions we take. In other words, our sedentary lifestyle is harming us. In other words, not exercising is harming us in the long term. Not paying close attention to what we eat is harming us in the long term. Some people can get away with it, but far too many are not getting away with it. What I mean is not developing illnesses. So the levels of illnesses remain persistently high. Doesn't affect other communities without a shadow of a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt. But most certainly, those of African heritage here in so called West, here in Britain and Europe, and most certainly in the Caribbean. Yeah, they're past the Caribbean where diabetes is every other family. Yeah. The Vice Chancellor of the University of West Indies, Professor Hilary Beckles, noted in his own family line and has noted the epidemic of diabetes in the Caribbean. Yeah, this overconsumption of sugar, and therefore you build up insulin resistance. Insulin in the body is what you use to break down sugar. But if you build up a resistance to insulin, then it no longer breaks down sugars as efficiently as it once did. That's the problem. That's the problem. And thinking about what you're eating is critical. Eating food jam packed full of chemicals, E numbers, and so on, is clearly impacting these communities. Clearly so. So we devoted each of our podcasts to a few minutes to consider our lifestyle. And I will, in this podcast, devote just a few minutes to considering our lifestyle. Remember, we are a campaigning podcast, a campaigning channel. Those issues that are impacting communities, we will talk about them. Yeah, we will get light to them. Mhm. That's what we will do. My words are not sufficient, I say to you. My words are not sufficient. Our research is not sufficient. I want you to listen to the words of the professionals. Listen to what the Public Health Director for London and South East here in Britain, Professor Kevin Fenton, has to say about the subject. I would trust him anytime on these matters. He's devoted his professional life to our health and well-being, and therefore has a high level of confidence when he gives advice. The advice is, we should take note. Mhm. We bring it on the screen now. Listen to the words of the Public Health Director for London. And the advice he gives here in London would apply to any city in Europe, Africa, the Caribbean, the Americas, anywhere in the world. It is straightforward, common sense advice. Okay. At times a bit challenging, I'll explain that in a moment. But nevertheless, it is common sense advice. And I've been working hard to take on board his advice. Professor Kevin Fenton says, I'm a public health director. Here are 5 things you can do to improve your health. 1. Mindful and balanced eating. Nourish wisely. Eat whole, balanced meals with awareness to support energy and well-being. 2. Get outside. Be with nature. Time outside reduces stress, improves mood, and strengthens your connection to the world. 3. Stay curious, stay engaged, explore new interests, keep your mind sharp, build social contacts, and boost your happiness. 4. Get active, move it or lose it. Move daily, lift weight, and do cardio. Exercise, improve physical, mental, mood, and energy. 5. Prioritize rest and sleep. Disconnect, rest. Quality sleep supports mental clarity, emotional balance, and overall health. There you are. Common sense advice, isn't it? I know I don't sleep enough. Sorry, Professor. I'm trying. It is true. As part of the preparation for these podcasts, in the last 24 hours, I may gain maybe two hours sleep if I'm lucky. This time, only had just over an hour or so sleep to prepare for these podcasts. I know. I'm trying. I try. I will endeavor to do so. I will try my damnness. But the advice is common sense advice. Okay. And if we could follow his advice, I know we will transform our health and well being. But what I'm heartened by is the number of you who've heard these common sense messages, understood the importance for you, your family, your network, those you care for, and have taken it on board, and therefore responded by coming together in common aim and common purpose, working together and understanding in unity is strength. In doing so, you transform your general health and well-being, pooling your resources, gaining the facilities, you exercise together. Often we engage in action together. You're more than likely to be more effective. You're more than likely to do it over a sustained period of time because you've got encouragement from others who understand that we're just human beings. We have failings. And when one human being begins to fail, others will pick that person up until they recover. And you do the same for others. That's community. That's how civilizations are founded. That's the way forward. This is what we recommend here at the Motivator Show, because in unity is strength. So, what I'm going to show you or a group of people who've come together in common aim and common purpose. Okay, it's a video we show you every podcast, live podcast. Okay, but this is an example. People come together from diverse backgrounds, regardless of religious affiliation, regardless of ethnic profile, yeah, regardless of education, regardless if you're tall or you're short, you're broad or you're thin, coming together in common aim and common purpose, understanding your health is indeed your highest wealth. Understanding if we work together, we're more than likely to succeed. Watch these people exercising together, and I encourage you, please don't just sit there, don't just sit there. Just do a little bit of the exercise as well. Watch them. They are fantastic. Here we go. Oh yes. Oh yes. Come on now. That's it. Bend our knees together. I can feel my knees. Oh yes. I can feel those muscles. That's it. You can do the same. That's right. There you are. Now stretch your arms up. Okay, from the street. Stretch your arms. That's right. You've got it. Well done, Israel. Well done. There you go. That's it. We exercise together. We're more likely to succeed together. That's right. Ooh, I feel you. That's right. Moving forward. That's it. Oh. See, they're bigger, they're small. They're wider, they're thin. Yep. Regardless of background, they come together in common aim and common purpose. That's right. And together, we'll make a difference. Exercise together. See, they're sweating together. Yep, encouraging each other. Together. Wonderful. Look, she's smiling. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. See, they've got their children with them. Oh, yes. See the children there with them? There you are. Inculcating the children the idea that exercise is good. Exercising is a must. There you are. That's right. Whoa. That's right. That's it. Okay, I'll pause it there. All righty. But you understand the importance of those regular exercise sessions. Okay. We're taking the advantage of this platform to remind you to exercise. Think about what you're eating. If in doubt, see your doctor. Mhm. This is not an attempt to shame anyone. Okay. but it's important that we take care of ourselves so that we're better able to take care of others. Huh? Makes sense, huh? Makes sense. I'm heartened by the number of letters we've received from you of encouragement to continue the messaging. Thank you for that support. Thank you for that support. And together we will make the difference. What I want to do now, I now want to begin the review of 2025. Mhm. It's now time. So 2025 has most certainly proved to be a most interesting year. Okay. We started off with a bang and continued to bang, bang, bang with enthusiasm, with knowledge, with real strengths and confidence. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We're really proud of what we've achieved this year. Okay. And if you haven't subscribed, please just subscribe. That will help us out a great deal. Okay. But don't leave without leaving a comment. We'd appreciate that as well. Okay. We'd appreciate that as well. If in doubt, ask questions. That's what we say. If in doubt, ask questions. And if you ask questions, it is hope that you will receive a response. If you don't get a response, ask somebody else the same question until you receive a response. There you go. Yeah. Subscribe. Don't leave without leaving a comment or giving us the thumbs up. We'd be most grateful. Yeah, that would be really encouraging for us. Okay. But I do want to begin the review of 2025. As I say, it's been a most auspicious year, a year in which real progress happened, both here in Britain and Europe, the Caribbean, the Americas, and most certainly in Africa, without a shadow of doubt. We will do eventually a special episode focused on the people of China. Okay, we need to talk about China soon. Mark my word, in 2026 we shall. Okay, we want to talk about China, what the Chinese are doing in Africa. Great, great, and magnificent buildings. Hmm. We need to talk about China. But before that, and now, we're now going to revert to January 2025. Some of you will recall that in 2025, we started off with a bang. Okay. In fact, if we put it on the screen, you may recall the first episode was focused on the true Ethiopia and Burkina Faso. Mhm. Some of you will recall how we discussed the issue in depth and had interesting series of interviews. Okay. Ethiopia, because it has a spiritual grounding for the continent of Africa. Mhm. Okay. And Burkina Faso, because Burkina Faso has lit up the entire world, notwithstanding great leaders that exist in Africa and have been in Africa previously. But it is necessary and incumbent upon me to express honor and respect to President Ibrahim Traore of Burkina Faso, because through him, many lights have opened. I am very mindful of the wise words of King Kabbalah of the African Continental Unity Party, that there is a tendency for us to look towards a person, almost Masonic, as it were, figure to lead us through a path. When actually, we've got our own light and we have the ability to go through this path holding hands together. But nevertheless, Captain Ibrahim Traore, indeed, President Traore of Burkina Faso, has exemplified good governance, a commitment to the people in the land of the upright people, upright men. Oh, yeah. I want you to watch a short part of the intro video produced for that episode. And I know you would appreciate the content is powerful and relevant today. not just in January 2025. Okay, watch this. The Motivator Show, the internet's most inspirational podcast. Breaking news, breaking news. The true Burkina Faso and Ethiopia. By the 11th century, the descendants of the Quadrado established a centralized state that became known as the Mossi Kingdoms. These kingdoms played a significant role in shaping the region's history and politics. The most prominent Mossi kingdom include Ouagadougou, the political and spiritual center of the Mossi culture. Its rulers are known as the Mogo Naba, who still hold symbolic power today. Yatanga, known for its military strength and interaction with neighboring empires like the Songhai and Mali empires. Tendogo, the oldest Mossi kingdom, believed to have been established by Ouagadougou himself. Burkina Faso, land of the incorruptible men. The culture of Burkina Faso is extremely rich and diverse, possessing a huge and unique culture with its traditional architecture, cuisines, festivals, folkloric ceremonies, craft and social organizations based on ancestral values, music, dance and clothing. Burkina Faso has about 60 ethnic groups that have blended together over the centuries in perfect symbiosis. President Thomas Sankara, in 1984, Sankara changed the name from Upper Volta to Burkina Faso, meaning the land of the upright people in local languages. He implemented large-scale public health campaigns, including vaccinating millions against polio and measles. Thomas Sankara's government prioritized anti-corruption, transparency and social justice, reducing government officials' salaries, selling luxury cars and implementing austerity measures to redirect resources towards welfare. He promoted integrity, humility and service within public office. Sankara implemented radical land reforms, redistributing land to peasants, especially women, to boost agricultural productivity, promote rural development, and reduce Burkina Faso's dependence on foreign aid, aiming for self-sufficiency in food production. Sankara champions women's rights by appointing women to key positions, promoting education, workforce participation, and political leadership. He outlawed female genital mutilations and child marriage, emphasizing that women's liberation was central to the revolution. African proverb. If we stand tall, it is because we stand on the shoulders of many ancestors. This proverb teaches us the importance of studying the past to derive lessons from it for purpose of shaping our future. It reminds us that we are who we are because of those who have come before us. President Ibrahim Traoré, president from 2022 to present day. Burkina Faso, land of the incorruptible men. Ibrahim Traoré is the poorest president in the world. At 35 years old, is also the youngest president in the world. What sets him apart from many leaders? Unlike leaders who flaunt luxury and think flashy cars and grand mansions, President Traoré has chosen a different path. He drives a simple car, wears military attires, and has made a groundbreaking decision. Traoré has refused to take his presidential salary, opting to keep his military captain's earnings. This choice reflects his commitment to serving his people and leading by example. His dedication is a testament to the belief that leadership is about service, not wealth. Burkina Faso, land of the incorruptible men. In May 2023, Ibrahim Traoré's administration allocated over 78 billion CF francs to provide agricultural equipment and fertilizer to local producers. This investment aimed to double the equipment available compared to 2023 to the average quantity distributed over the past 5 years. Additionally, approximately 68.9 tons of chemical fertilizer were distributed, more than doubling the amount from 2023 and exceeding 5 times the average of the previous 5 years. Ibrahim Traoré's administration has constructed in September 2023 a $8 million tomato processing plant. The project is expected to create more than 150 direct jobs and more than 10,000 indirect jobs. Burkina Faso, land of the incorruptible men.
The administration of Ibrahim Traore has launched an initiative to build and rehabilitate schools in rural areas, aiming to increase educational access to underserved regions. He is investing in education resources by giving them reading books, textbooks, and school uniforms. He will promote inclusive education by ensuring girls and children with disabilities also have access to education. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, the direction of the new administration in Burkina Faso can be measured by its adamant support for the creation of a federation of African states. Ethiopia.
Do you understand why the Motivator show gives unreserved support to the people of Burkina Faso? Indeed, we give unreserved support to the people of Mali and Niger, okay, who've now formed part of that Sahel alliance of states, okay? Because I'm confident, all the indications are that their numbers will increase because they're standing up upright, proud, will not allow themselves to be humiliated by other countries, by other corporate entities any longer. That if you wish to trade with these countries, you're trading as equals. Mhm. There's no longer this mismatch which has been the case in the past. There you go. So we are proud of the people of Burkina Faso. But there's also another country which we need to give light to, and we gave light to in January 2025. And that's, of course, the country of Ethiopia. Okay, let me just bring that one up for you. But I believe this is an important one for us to consider. Here we go.
Ethiopia is credited with being the origin of mankind. Bones discovered in eastern Ethiopia date back 3.2 million years. Ethiopia is the oldest independent country in Africa and one of the oldest in the world. The Old Testament of the Bible records the Queen of Sheba's visit to Jerusalem. According to legend, Menelik I, the son of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba, founded the Ethiopian Empire. Missionaries from Egypt and Syria introduced Christianity in the 4th century AD, following the rise of Islam. In the 7th century, Ethiopia was gradually cut off from the European Christendom. The Portuguese established contact with Ethiopia in 1493, primarily to strengthen their influence over the Indian Ocean and to convert Ethiopians to Roman Catholicism. There followed a century of conflict between pro- and anti-Catholic factions, resulting in the expulsion of all foreign missionaries in the 1630s. Ethiopia, the Ethiopian Bible.
We go. So you heard that. The expulsion of foreign missionaries in the 16th century. Mhm. Yeah. We all know that by that time, foreign missionaries were all over Africa. And today, we can see the harm those foreign missionaries did to Africa. Mhm. Can you imagine that hundreds of millions of people who've died because they fell victim to Catholics from Rome, hmm? Catholics from France, Britain, Belgium? Mhm. Yeah, that's what happened. That is indeed what happened. The very people who say they believe in God, in peace, and appreciation of humankind, are the very people who heralded great harm and evil in Africa. Yep, they built their great cathedrals, their great churches here in Europe. You see them all over Europe. I see them here in London still. You go to the centre of London, yeah, where Parliament is. You're surrounded by cathedrals, yeah, and great castles, yep, from which the cathedrals were the revenue generator to enable the monarch, the crown, as it were, to afford to build these great castles on the blood and mutilation, humiliation of African peoples. That's simply history. We look forward, he says, to the Catholic Church. We look forward to the Anglican Church, indeed, agreeing to pay just reparations. Oh, yeah. It's a subject we tackle later in the year. But oh, yeah, it's important to pause at that point, the understanding the role of history which has shaped the world we have today. Mhm. Information that generally is not in circulation. I know, it's not taught to us in schools. But here on the Motivator Show, and there are other channels here on YouTube and other places where the information is accessible, it is critical, regardless of your ethnicity, that this information is understood, is shared and understood by children, young people. So they grow up with that knowledge, okay? And you partially incubate them against the propaganda, the negative propaganda, which works against our species, not simply a single ethnicity, but works against our species. The level of hubris that amongst some ethnicities is really quite astonishing. Greed, in other words. It is quite astonishing. But let me just continue this because this is, as I said, we're still in January. This is still a single episode, and you can understand it's impossible to summarize the entire year in this episode. So we will, as I said earlier on, we will do this for each month of the year, and it will be transmitted on Wednesday of each week, each time.
Used by the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, differs significantly from the Catholic and Protestant Bibles due to its unique historical development, cultural context, and theological traditions. These differences are reflected in its canons of scripture, which is the largest and most diverse amongst all Christian traditions. The historical development of the canons, the Ethiopian church traces its roots to early Christianity, particularly the 4th century CE, when Christianity became the state religion of the kingdom of Askum. Unlike Western Christianity, which developed later under Roman and later European influences, the Ethiopian church maintained close ties to early Jewish Christian traditions and Alexandrian Christianity. The Ethiopian canon was influenced by texts widely circulated in the early centuries of Christianity, many of which are excluded from later Western and Eastern Christian canons. Ethiopia, the Ethiopian Bible. His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I was the last reigning monarch of Ethiopia's Solomonic dynasty. The Solomonic dynasty traces its ancient ancestry to King Solomon of Israel and the Queen of Sheba, biblical figures who lived during the 10th century before the Christian era. Ethiopia and Ethiopian Bible. The Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church had been administratively part of the Coptic Orthodox Church of Alexandria from the first half of the 4th century until 1959, 1600 years, when it was granted its own patriarch by the Pope of the Coptic Orthodox Church. Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Bible. Old Testament, 46 books in the older Ethiopian canon. New Testament, 35 books in the older Ethiopian canon. Moses receiving the law. The nativity scene. Yes, the angel Gabriel. Yes, His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie, Addis Ababa, May 25th, 1963 speech. Together we look to the future calmly, confidently, courageously. We look to the vision of an Africa not merely free but united. In facing this new challenge, we take comfort and encouragement from the lessons of the past. We know that there are differences amongst us. Africans enjoy different culture, distinctive values, special attributes. But we also know that unity can be and has been attained amongst men of the most disparate origins. The differences of race, of religion, of culture, of tradition are no insuperable obstacle to the coming together of peoples. History teaches us that unity is strength.
Again, you understand the motto of the Motivator show. This was said, these are words of His Excellency, yeah? The man that is described as the last of the Solomonic lineage, of course, is Imperial Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie I. Powerful, powerful testament. The Motivator show could but follow that. That's why we exist. Okay. It is important for us to hear the words of these great Africans, because you will not hear them in the general news media. What they want you to believe, which is clearly and profoundly untrue, that indeed, despite the fact that all the evidence point to the fact that human beings come out of Africa, come out of Ethiopia, in fact. They will try to have you believe otherwise, despite the fact, on the other hand, they substantiate and affirm this to be the case. Despite the fact they would affirm that all languages, therefore, have an African origin. They would say attempt to suggest otherwise. They would attempt to suggest that Africa didn't have civilization. But yet they spent hundreds of years destroying our manuscript, our buildings, razed them to the ground, and then claimed they never existed. They could not do the same to the pyramids because they're just too large. They attempted to deface the Sphinx because it had the shape of an African nose of a woman. They could not. Good old Napoleon, huh? Good old Boney. They attempted to do that. And there was hundred, indeed thousand examples of that awful act of brutality. That's what they got to refer to it. Which is why the call for reparations remains consistent and firm, unrelenting, and it will never stop. Okay. But His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie I, his words continue to resound throughout history, and he's slowly, slowly, slowly resonating right across the world. I say slowly, but he has already resonated across the world. It's really for people to finally wake up. Finally wake up. Hear the words. Hear the words. And thereby, you will resonate as well. And together, we will transform the world to a far better place. And there is a parallel between Burkina Faso, and of course, Ethiopia. Mhm. And the interview that followed that intro video was in itself incisive. Okay. It provided insights as to how the two countries have parallel histories, how it is possible for people from a broad range of ethnic backgrounds to come together in common aim and common purpose to defy the logic you hear currently here in Europe and America, that indeed people who are not don't look immediately like you are different and therefore must be held out, stopped. Mhm. In other words, we're going against our species' best interests because we are but one people ultimately. And that's what they're really afraid, that you will discover, you develop the strength and knowledge, thereby the strength, to recognize, regardless of your pigmentation, we are one people and we are our brothers and sisters' keepers. That is really what they're trying to take you away from yourself. Mhm. We don't need to boast here. We just simply need to reveal the truth. If what I've described is incorrect, oh, please, we put the email address back on the screen. We'd like you to send us an email and let's add that discussion. Where is it? There we go. I'll put it on the screen again. Write to us here at the Motivator Show 501 at gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear from you. If what I've described is incorrect in any way, please write to us. Why not? Let's have that discussion. Love to see your evidence. Okay, not simply emotion. I'd love to see your evidence. I can understand the emotion if you've been fed a lie all your life. It is sometimes, forgive me, often difficult to accept the truth. And I accept that to be true. And often, those who refuse to accept the truth become most obnoxious and sometimes dangerous persons. This is true. But the truth will set you free. So it's the first episode. Yeah, only the first episode of the year. Yeah, we hit the ground running, I have to say. We did hit the ground running. The next episode, of course, and some of you might recall, where, in fact, should I say much more on this one? Okay. Let me proceed on. Let me proceed on. It will be interesting to hear your thoughts about this. I'm going to play this one. And I wonder how many of you can recall, and it's there on our YouTube channel. We've got backups of all the episodes in independent digital vaults to ensure that they're there for posterity. So don't you worry, you will never lose them. But watch this episode, just a few minutes.
Africans in unity is strength. Ethiopianism. It was a pivotal movement that combined religious aspirations with a burgeoning sense of African nationalism, laying the groundwork for future struggles against colonialism and the affirmation of African identity. Ethiopianism, a religious and political movement among sub-Saharan Africans during the late 19th and early 20th centuries, representing early efforts toward autonomy from colonial rule. It emerged as African Christians sought to establish independent churches free from European missionary control to affirm their cultural identity and resist racial discrimination. Ethiopianism. The movement drew inspiration from the biblical references to Ethiopia, particularly Psalm 68 verse 31. Ethiopia shall soon stretch out her hands unto God. This verse symbolized a vision of African unity and self-governance, fostering a sense of pride and destiny amongst African communities. This is important. Ethiopianism. Edward Wilmot Blyden, born 1832, died 1912. Born in St. Thomas, a Caribbean island, his parents claimed descent from the Igbo people of present-day Nigeria. He was a Liberian, or now called Sierra Leone, educator, writer, diplomat and politician. His literacy work and speeches include Calls of Providence of the Descendants of Africa in America, Christianity, Islam and the Negro Race, African Life and Customs, Africa for Africans, the Negro in Ancient History, Liberia, Past, Present and Future, the Origins and Purpose of African Colonization, were amongst his many works. Ethiopianism, Edward Wilmot Blyden, is associated with Ethiopianism due to his promotion of African pride, cultural preservation and self-determination. Ethiopianism, which viewed Ethiopia as a symbol of Africa's dignity and resilience, based on biblical references, aligned with Blyden's advocacy for Africans to develop their own institutions and celebrate their unique identity. His ideas influenced prominent Pan-African leaders like Marcus Garvey, George Padmore, Kwame Nkrumah, solidifying its place in history. This is important.
I think just before we go to the next page, you understand how many of you were aware of this great man, this visionary human being, yeah? Against all odds, became educated, a visionary, inspiring to his people for obvious reasons. How many of you were aware of him? He will never be forgotten. It's an integral part of world history. And Ethiopia, of course, is identified. Of course, the name for Africa has changed over the time. Nubia, the earlier name, of course. Ethiopia, other names. Yeah? Okay. The future Africa, I suspect, will have to agree upon a mutually acceptable name for East, West, North Africans to come together in common aim and common purpose. That's reparations in action, because reparations begins with self. That great genius, Mr. Blyden, honor and respect to you, sir. Honor and respect to you. But let me continue. Let me just bring it forward. Bring this forward, because I think it's as you listen to this, okay, you can understand how much we have lost. How many of our children have missed out on this knowledge? How many have missed out? Okay, there we go.
Henry Sylvester Williams. He began his career as a teacher at age 17, earning a Class 3 certification. By 1887, he's one of 3 certified teachers in San Fernando, and later taught in Cannes and San Juan until 1891. A cultured individual, he also taught singing, played the piano, and co-founded the Trinidad Elementary Teachers Union in 1890. William pursued higher education in Dalhousie University in Canada, earning a degree after 8 years. He later studied law at Gray's Inn in London and became a barrister, practicing primary at the Old Bailey before being admitted to the Supreme Court of Cape Colony. Pan-Africanism, Henry Sylvester Williams. He is recognized for his pivotal role in the Pan-African movement, notably organizing the first Pan-African Conference in 1900. While Ethiopianism, a religious and political movement that emphasized African self-worth and independence, often inspired by biblical references to Ethiopia, Henry Sylvester Williams' contributions are more directly associated with Pan-Africanism, focusing on uniting peoples of African descent to address global issues of colonialism and racial discrimination. This is important. Ethiopianism to Pan-Africanism. African proverb. If we stand tall, it's because we stand on the shoulders of many ancestors. This proverb teaches us the importance of studying the past to derive lessons from it for purpose of shaping our future. It reminds us that we are who we are because of those who've come before us. Prominent 20th century Pan-Africanist. His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I. Africa must unite. We have to do so that we do not again fall victims to colonialisms. As Ethiopia was one of the only African nations to successfully resist colonization, Haile Selassie provided a moral and material support to various African liberation movements. Ethiopia, under his leadership, served as a symbol of African independence and resilience. He was a prominent advocate for Pan-African ideals throughout his reign. His efforts significantly contributed to the unity and liberation of African nations. Here are some key aspects of his role in promoting Pan-Africanism. In 1963, Haile Selassie played a central role in establishing the Organization of African Unity, OAU, which aimed to promote solidarity amongst African states, support liberation efforts and foster economic development. Addis Ababa, Ethiopia's capital, became the organization's headquarters. Haile Selassie became a global symbol for African pride and independence, inspiring leaders like Kwame Nkrumah, Jomo Kenyatta, Julius Nyerere. He was also revered by the Rastafarian movement, which viewed him as a messianic figure promoting African liberation and empowerment. Prominent 20th century Pan-Africanist, Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey was born on August 17, 1887 in St. Anne's Bay, a town located on the north coast of Jamaica. Garvey founded the UNIA in 1914 in Jamaica, which became the largest global organization promoting Pan-African ideals. The UNIA aimed to unite Africans worldwide and advocated for economic independence, self-determination, and the establishment of a unified Africa. In 1919, Garvey launched the Black Star Line, a shipping company designed to facilitate trade and transportation between Africa and the African diaspora. Although the company faced financial and operational challenges, it symbolized Garvey's commitment to African economic empowerment. Garvey used biblical references to Ethiopia and Africa as a symbol of resilience and redemption for black people. His emphasis on Ethiopia resonated with Ethiopianism and reinforced the vision of a free and united Africa. Garvey organized international UNIA conventions, such as the 1920 convention in New York, where the Declaration of the Right of Negro Peoples of the World was adopted. This document outlined the aspirations for racial equality, self-determination, and African independence. Prominent 20th century Pan-Africanist, Kwame Nkrumah. He was born on September 21st, 1909 in Nkufu, a small village in the western region of the Gold Coast, now modern-day Ghana. Kwame Nkrumah actively participated in Pan-African congresses, including the 5th Pan-African Congress in Manchester in 1945, which galvanized the decolonization movement. He worked closely with other Pan-African leaders such as W.E.B. Du Bois, George Padmore, and Julius Nyerere. He led Ghana, then the Gold Coast, to independence in 1957, making it the first sub-Saharan African country to achieve freedom from colonial rule. He viewed Ghana's independence as the first step toward the liberation of the entire African continent, famously declaring, "The independence of Ghana is meaningless unless it is linked up with the total liberation of Africa." He envisioned a united Africa with a single government, army, and economic system. He articulated his vision in his book, Africa Must Unite, in 1963, emphasizing that African nations needed to collaborate to resist external domination and foster development. He provided materials and moral support to liberation movements across Africa, offering Ghana as a base for activists fighting against colonial and apartheid regimes. Nkrumah's writing and policies inspired other African leaders and movements across the diaspora. His efforts to promote African unity remained a cornerstone of Pan-Africanist ideology. Prominent 20th century Pan-Africanist Julius Nyerere. He was born on April 13, 1922, in Butima, a village located near Lake Victoria, in what was then Tanganyika, now part of modern-day Tanzania. Nyerere's philosophy of ujamaa, familyhood, was rooted in traditional African values and emphasized collective ownership, community, and self-reliance. This philosophy aligned with Pan-African ideals of reclaiming African identity and creating systems that reflect African realities. Nyerere frequently spoke about the need for African countries to unite politically, economically, to overcome the legacy of colonialism and build a prosperous future. He supported regional integration initiatives such as the East African Community as stepping stones towards broader African unity. Under Nyerere's leadership, Tanzania invested heavily in education with the goal of building a conscious and united African citizenry. He emphasized the need for Africans to understand their shared heritage and destiny. He worked closely with other prominent African and Pan-African leaders, such as Kwame Nkrumah, Haile Selassie, Leopold Senghor. He also respected the voice of wisdom and principles within the Pan-African movement. And he says, "Without unity, there is no future for Africa." Prominent 20th century Pan-Africanist Patrice Lumumba, born on July 2nd, 1925 in Anula, a small village near Katako Kombe in the Kwazai province, now Sankuru province of the DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo. At the All-African People's Conference in Accra, 1958, he called for a united struggle against colonial domination, echoing the Pan-African ideals of leaders like Kwame Nkrumah. Lumumba's speeches and policies highlighted his disdain for the continued influence of Western powers in Africa. He sought to reclaim Congo's resources and the governance for its people, embodying the Pan-African principle of self-reliance. He argued that African countries should work together to support liberation movements across the continent. Lumumba's leadership during Congo's fight for independence was seen as part of a broader struggle for African freedom. His iconic speech during Congo's independence ceremony, Lumumba directly challenged Belgian colonial legacy, asserting the dignity and sovereignty of the Congolese people. This bold stance resonated with Pan-African ideals of self-determination and pride in African identity. The day will come when history will speak, but it will not be the history taught in Brussels, Paris, Washington, or the United Nations. It will be the history that will be taught in the countries freed from imperialism and its puppets. Prominent 20th century Pan-Africanist Winnie Mandela, born on September 26 in 1936 in Bizana, a small town in the Eastern Cape province of South Africa. Winnie Mandela was a staunch opponent of apartheid, understanding it part of a broader colonial racial oppression faced by Africans across the continent. She consistently connected the liberation of South Africa to the wider African struggle for freedom and justice. She expressed solidarity with other liberation movements in Africa, such as those in Zimbabwe, Namibia, Angola, and Mozambique. She believed in a unified African front against imperialism and colonial legacies. After the end of apartheid, she remained vocal about issues affecting African nations, such as poverty, inequalities, and neo-colonialism, emphasizing the need for African nations to work together to address these challenges. Winnie Mandela's life and activism exemplified the principle of Pan-Africanism. Her dedication to the liberation of South Africa was part of a larger commitment to the freedom and unity of African peoples, making her an enduring symbol of resistance and solidarity in the Pan-African movements. This is important. Prominent 21st century Pan-Africanist. The Motivator Show. Success is ours for the taking. In an up-and-coming episode, we will feature prominent 21st century Pan-African leaders. However, in this episode, we'll focus on Burkina Faso as an example, highlighting President Ibrahim Traoré's leadership, which we believe should be emulated across the African continent. Prominent 21st century Pan-Africanist, Thomas Sankara. Born on December 21st, 1949 in Yanko, a town in Oudoulane province, or what was then known as Upper Volta, now Burkina Faso. Sankara was a vocal critic of Africa's continued economic dependency on former colonial powers and Western countries. He sought to build a self-sufficient Burkina Faso, advocating for policies that reduce reliance on foreign aid and increase local production. Sankara's leadership was deeply rooted in the principles of African unity, self-reliance, and the fight against imperialism and neo-colonialism. He viewed the struggle for the liberation of his own country as part of a broader struggle for the unity and empowerment of the African continent. Sankara expressed strong solidarity with liberation movements across Africa. He supported the struggle for independence and against apartheid in countries like South Africa and Zimbabwe, as well as the liberation movements in Angola, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and Namibia. Sankara promoted African culture and heritage, rejecting Western cultural dominance. His policies and rhetoric encouraged pride in African identity and African solutions to Africa's problems. He says, Africa's problem is a problem of unity. If we do not unite, we will remain weak. United, we'll be stronger, and we will survive. President Ibrahim Traoré, the current president of Burkina Faso, was born in Bobo Dioulasso, which is the second largest city in Burkina Faso, on November 29, 1988. His leadership is marked by a strong emphasis on national sovereignty, independence, and rejection of Western interference, all of which aligned with Pan-African principles, and has repeatedly called for African countries to unite and take control of their own political, economic and social destiny, free from external domination. As President, Traoré has focused on enhancing Burkina Faso's sovereignty, often in opposition to foreign intervention, especially military ones. This stance echoes the Pan-African desire for African self-reliance and control over the continent's resources. Although his tenure has been marked by national concerns, Traoré has shown commitment to regional African cooperation, especially when it comes to addressing security challenges in the Sahel region, where Burkina Faso is located. Traoré has stated, "We must no longer allow our countries to be the playground of foreign powers. It is time for Africa to stand up and speak with one voice." The African Continental Unity Party, Africa's first political party transcending boundaries, promoting African unity. The primary aim of the ACUP is to promote the unity of African countries based on the belief that African nations should work together to achieve common political, social and economic goals. Political and economic integration. The ACUP advocates for the political integration of African states, similar to the African Union AU objectives of creating a single political entity. Additionally, the party supports economic integration to foster a common market, free trade, and shared resources amongst African countries. Self-reliance and independence. The ACUP emphasizes self-reliance and independence for African countries, advocating for reduced dependency on foreign powers, particularly in the economic, political and security sectors. This goal includes fostering strong African institutions that can manage the continent's affairs independently. The African Continental Unity Party, Africa's first political party transcending boundaries. African identity and cultural renaissance. The party seeks to promote and preserve African culture, heritage and traditions. It supports the initiatives that foster a sense of pride in African identity and culture, helping to unite African peoples across national borders. Development and poverty alleviation. The ACUP aims to address economic underdevelopment and poverty across Africa. The party supports policies that focus on infrastructure development, job creation, education, healthcare, and other essential sectors that drive sustainable development across the continent. Peace, security, and stability. The party advocates for the promotion of peace, security, and political stability within African countries and across the continent. This includes conflict resolution, peace-building efforts, and collective security arrangements to prevent conflicts. The African Continental Unity Party, Africa's first political party transcending boundaries. Pan-African diplomacy. The ACUP encourages African countries to work together in their foreign policy to address common challenges and protect the continent's interest on the global stage. This includes strengthening relations with other regions while emphasizing African solidarity. Youth empowerment. The party aims to empower Africa's youth by providing them with opportunities in education, employment, and political participation. The ACUP sees the youth as the key to achieving Africa's long-term goal of unity and prosperity. Environmental sustainability. the ACUP advocate for environmental policies that ensures sustainable use of Africa's natural resources. It supports climate change mitigation and policies that protect the environment for future generations. The African Continental Unity Party, Africa's first political party transcending boundaries. Contact details. Website address www.africanacup.org. Email address unity@africanacup.org. Phone number +2774 657 7264. Contact us now.
Wow. I know a lot of information there, but this is for you. Most critically, this is for the young ones, the children. Yeah, this is for the children. This enables them to find dignity in history. That's what it does. It provides a very clear basis upon which we can move forward together. Yeah, we can move forward together because if you educate the children with the facts, particularly facts from our perspective, they're empowered, they're confident, they will hold their heads up right, proud, dignified, and will not allow themselves to be suppressed, downcast. Mhm. That's why this information is critical to them. You can make the difference. I say again, you can make the difference. There's a great deal there, but this was only in January, and that was only the third episode in January of this year. The information shared with you via the Motivator Show. Look, if you haven't subscribed, we urge you to do so. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Do not leave with either leaving a comment or giving us a thumbs up, preferably. Okay? Just so it's clear that the content that you've received today meets with your satisfaction. And together we can and we will make the difference. Together you can make the difference. You are the change makers. If in doubt, ask questions. And together we can make the difference. This episode is designed not to in any way embarrass anyone. These episodes are designed to provide good quality information, information that you can use, information that will be uplifting. It is factual information. Okay? If in doubt, ask questions. What I want to do, though, before I leave you, is emphasize a few other pointers for you. I believe this will be a great help to you all. Review our YouTube channel for the past 12 months, okay? Which we will summarize by each month. As I said, we will transmit them on Wednesday of each week, each strong, if you like, okay? So you won't have to go do much work. There's a lot of work in there. But ensure you spread the word, and particularly the young people. They're the one. The youth are the future. But in order for them to realize the future, you have to prepare them. Yeah? You got to nurture them. Yeah? So the vision that we discuss here makes sense to them. Mm-hmm. Is that understood? I know it's understood. But I'm just conscious of time, so there's much more I could share with you for January of 2025. Okay? But what is clear, that we have shared an incredible amount of information. And if you haven't availed yourself of our YouTube channel and subscribed, Okay, having responded, we urge you to do so. Study, study, study. There was a former British Prime Minister who would have said, education, education, education. It won him 3 general elections, I believe. Oh, yeah, absolutely right. If you educate the youth, appropriately educate the youth, and you nurture those young people to adulthood, we will all be rewarded many times over. Many times over. We must invest in the youth. That's the future. They will crystallize the vision that we're describing today. But what we've been able to do today is to belie the propaganda that Africans have not been organizing. Africans are not aware of what is needs to be done. What you've heard today is but the tip of the iceberg. We're only in the second episode of the first month of 2025. Yes, I know, I know, I know. Just imagine what is to come. Okay. So watch this space on Wednesdays, but we urge you to spread the word. Spread the word. Some of it, for some people, will be uncomfortable, and I get it, and I understand why. I get that. I'm empathetic. I do understand. But I ask you to stay the course. Stay the course. Because there are many of us here in the diaspora who've only ever lived in the diaspora and therefore have lived a life amongst this propaganda, you know? I recall the story about um, the eagles, young eagles who were brought up as, as, as if they were chickens. Chick, 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 chicks. So these are young eagles, cichlids, yeah? Young eagles. But have only ever known a world where they live amongst chickens, eating chicken food. Yep, what the chickens eat. Behaving like chicken. Tick, 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 tick. I'm afraid, I'm afraid. Yep, oh no, that's not me. No, no, that's not me. Mhm. Speaking like a chicken, acting like a chicken, being chicken, emulating chicken. Mhm. Until an eagle flies over and looks down and sees his children in the chicken coop. He rests on the fence and looks at them and asks the question, why are you amongst the chickens? Mhm. But that's all they've ever known. Some, of course, once he reminded them of their true identities, were terrified at it and run to the hens, run to the cockerels. Said, there's the eagle up there saying that I'm this, but I'm not really. Mhm. But of course, the majority acknowledged the truth because they can feel it in their hearts, yeah, in their very genes. They could feel it. They understood it at a spiritual, high level, the truth, but required the courage to step out of the chicken coop because stepping out is the first step. The next step, of course, is to actually fly. Chickens can't fly, eagles can. When you start to fly, I'm assuring you, you see the world completely differently. This is the Motivator Show. This is where we translate our words into action and where success is ours for the taking. Oh, I know we've shared a great deal of information to you, but yes, this is just the second episode of 2025 that we're reviewing. The other 2 episodes are mind blowing. Even I'm saying that mind blowing. From the team here at the Motivator Show, yeah, both those who are with me physically and those online who I liaise with regularly. I want to share with you complete love and affection and appreciation to you. Okay. Thank you for enabling us to deliver the Motivator Show and continue to raise the quality of the content, the robustness of the information, the inspiration that we stimulate in the minds of many. Thank you. I could not do it without you. But we will continue. We will continue. Despite all the resistance, we will inevitably continue to receive. Yeah? It is unfortunate, but members of our species who have a very myopic view of our species and believe all the wealth stays with them and will permit other human beings to live in destitution and pain. I know. But they are an integral part of the human family. We understand their psychological deficiencies. Yeah? We understand their psychological deficiencies. But that's what it is. I believe countries such as Britain, despite its horrendous past, empire and what it meant and how much it destroyed the soul of British people. And I have to tell you, there's some quite remarkable people here in Britain, people who I greatly respect, remarkable people. But yet they also reflect the extremes of humanity as well. I believe now that Britain is not a part of the European Union, that Britain, if it were to affiliate with the African Union, okay, and indeed start to pay appropriate reparations, okay, and come to terms with its past. Africa is where the real growth is for the future. Mhm. Africa's population is likely to grow from the current 1.4 billion, sorry, that's right, 4 billion, to more than 2 trillion, forgive me, trillion, billion by 2035. And further double that number, potentially double that number, by the end of the century. Africa is where the growth is. If the intelligent, visionary British people I've encountered were able to get their heads screwed on properly, that's where they would invest. But they need to take British people through a series of re-education about their true history. That's where the growth is. It's not in Europe. Forgive me. Sorry, people from Europe. Forgive me. But it's not in Europe. Europe has had its day. That's where the growth is. If you want to secure jobs of greater security for Britain, Britain should associate closely with Africa. That's the obvious future. Ask any investor, long-term investor, they'd acknowledge the truth. Why are the Chinese investing in such incredible sums in Africa? Mhm. Far greater sums than the Americans ever invested in Europe. We need Britain. Yeah, the future is Africa. There's some tricky and challenging experiences to come. Be assured, you can't have so much harm over such a sustained period without some reckoning to occur. Okay, but that's just human beings. Yeah? But the future is Africa. That's what Britain should do if we want to protect the long-term interest. And I have to tell you, the government we have of Britain, yeah, despite all the challenges it is going through right now, and in the recent speech by the finance secretary, it's called the chancellor in this country, do you know what she did? Which is why I've got hope for Britain. Her first port of call was to take 500,000 people, forgive me, 500,000 children out of poverty by providing the parents with sufficient financial support to take them out of poverty. Despite all the problems the country has, yep, the attack by the right wingers from the US and Europe, yep, that was the priority. That's my kind of government. That's my kind of government. That moral compass. That the party could continue with that moral compass. Look, it's not going to be easy. Don't misunderstand. I'm confident, as I know British people very, very well, that the current government will continue in government for the foreseeable future. But a moral compass that addresses the most vulnerable, those who are clearly in greatest need. Oh, yeah, that takes a political courage, a moral stance that I very rarely see in politics here in Britain or anywhere else. Well done to the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves. Yeah, I'm going to call her name, Rachel Reeves. Well done, well done, well done. That's my kind of politician. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Well said, well said. Today's episode is unusual. We've had the opportunity to review. And just to begin the process of reviewing, it is very clear that we've shared a mountain of information. And I know for many it's too much. I get it, don't worry, I get it. It's too much, I know, I know. I urge you to review the episodes, okay? And watch it in 5-10 minute slots. Make notes, either pen and paper, if that's do you want, or make note of your computers or your phones, yeah, of the key points, and just recite them to yourself every day, so the knowledge stays with you. And if you follow that exercise, and I'm showing you, if you can follow that exercise, you will become truly inspired. Okay, so the matter of discipline, I get it. So just like the exercise class we mentioned earlier on, come together with others in common aim and common purpose, understanding we work together. You work together, you can transform your lives, your family lives, your loved ones' lives, yeah? Your network lives, and indeed transform society. Yeah? But it begins with you making that conscious decision. So this is the Motivator show. Okay. This, of course, will be the last show for 2025. Okay. Watch out on Wednesdays for the summary of each month of this year. There's some powerful information we've yet to share with you. Oh my gosh. And we'll attempt where we can to update that information because in some cases months have passed. Okay. But I know you would agree with me that each of these episodes have been truly inspirational experiences. So we wish you all well for 2026. Okay. Watch out, of course, for the panel discussions. Okay. We've had 2 panel discussions thus far. One that looked at the political and social impacts of the events, seminal events of 2025. Another, which we've yet to publish, that had looked at the political, economic and technological advances in Africa, the Caribbean, and beyond in 2025. The next one would, of course, allow women exclusively to respond to the seminal events in 2025 and provide their perspective on these issues. And last but not least, our futures, young people between the ages of 18 and 35, will share their opinions on the seminal events of 2025 and also give us their youthful, I'm sure, challenging view on our generation and what they expect in 2026 in their names. We're still operating in their names. Okay. But if you wish to join any of our panels, again, I'll put the, let me put on the screen again. There we go. You can, of course, send a message to us. Say, give us your name. You may have an organization or your interest in the panels. You may wish to join, you may be a woman, you wish to join a panel. send the details through to the Motivator Show 501 at gmail.com, or a young person who feels able to articulate their views, please. We'd love to hear from you. I know that particular episode, I've got a number of lined up already. I know that is going to be challenging for me because they're going to challenge us, our generation in the main. Oh my gosh. Oh yeah. Send your details through. We look forward to hearing from you. Look forward to hearing from you. So, 2026, as the saying goes here at the Motivator Show, this is where we translate our words into action because success is ours for the taking. In unity is strength, and if in doubt, ask question. Until the next strong, I remain the motivator.
The Motivator Show. Inspired guest for 2025 review. Motivator Show. Inspired guest for 2025 review.